The battle for the Kepler Nebula had burned for 23 relentless days. No pause. No silence. Just a storm of broken metal and dying light. 7 alien civilizations had converged here, and in their fury, they had turned a beautiful star system into a graveyard. Imagine it. Crystalline warships, each one sculpted from diamond, shattering into a million glittering shards. Swarms of insectoid craft darting like hornets, striking and scattering in impossible formations. Waves of radiant light unleashed by energy beings who fought with brilliance itself. Dragons of the void breathing fire even in the frozen vacuum. Ships filled with oceans, carrying aquatic minds who swam in liquid hulls while their fleets moved like living tides. Cold machines whose perfect geometry hid the mathematics of murder. And hunters, predators, who had scoured entire worlds for the pleasure of watching them burn. All of them locked in a single war. All of them desperate for one thing, the Kepler system. 17 habitable worlds. 17 chances at survival, expansion, and dominance. Whoever claimed Kepler would hold the beating heart of this galactic region. And into this storm sailed a single human ship. Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the heart of it all. The bridge of the UHS Defiant was a fortress of steel and shadow, lit only by the glow of tactical screens. He was gray-haired, brown-eyed, and carved by too many wars back on Earth. His uniform bore silver stars, the highest rank any human had ever carried beyond the cradle of soul. The Defiant was unlike anything else in the system. Where alien ships gleamed with elegance, shaped by centuries of refinement, humanity's vessel was a blunt instrument, thick, armored, bristling with weapons. A fortress in space. Its hull was lined with thousands of gun barrels, a porcupine of steel spines. The aliens laughed when they saw it. Primitive, they thought. Outdated. Obsolete. But they had never seen what human weapons could do. Lieutenant Lisa Banks, her hair pulled back with military precision, scanned the tactical readouts. Over 300 alien ships filled her screens, each one a colored light dancing through the void. Admiral, she said calmly, 217 vessels remain combat-capable. The Voran Empire holds 43. The Zehirian Swarm, 38. The Dramor Republic, 31. Luminar Collective, 29. Nerid Coalition, 26. Synthetic Assembly, 24. Kithra Dominion, 26. Each name carried the weight of history. Each was a predator in its own right. Communications Officer Ryan Cooper turned from his console, his voice filled with youthful urgency. Sir, all factions are transmitting. They're asking who we are, and whose side we're on. Morrison's gaze shifted to his second-in-command, Commander Kate Sullivan. Red-haired, sharp-eyed, trusted above all others. For 5 years she had been his voice of reason. They expect us to choose, she said. To fight for one and against the others. Morrison shook his head. But we did not come here to help one group of aliens kill another. And with that, humanity declared itself. Transmit on all channels, Morrison ordered. Tell them we are here under Article 7 of the Terran Colonial Charter. Neutral observers. Here to seek peace. The effect was immediate. Weapons fire ceased. Across the system, cannons fell silent. Plasma cooled. Missiles shut down. Commanders stared in shock at this strange ship that had stopped a war with only a few words. The aliens studied the Defiant. It looked wrong. Brutal. Its hull scarred, riveted, armored, a relic of violence. Not sleek like theirs, not graceful. And its weapons. So many. Too many. On the Voran flagship Eternal Crystal, Captain Zixt laughed, her crystalline body ringing like a bell. Unknown vessel, she declared across the shared channel. Are you a mining ship? You look like a relic, crude metals, primitive kinetics. Have you lost your way? The Dramor general snarled his amusement. Do these humans still throw stones at their enemies? The Luminar commander pulsed with light, flickering colors of derision. Perhaps we should protect them before they are destroyed by accident. But Admiral Morrison did not flinch. He had heard this before. Humans had always been underestimated. Lieutenant Foster, he said evenly. Prepare targeting solutions. Full defensive readiness. The ship stirred. Its guns came online. Energy surged. Alien sensors screamed in confusion. The readings made no sense. Not plasma, not photons, not the familiar harmonics of galactic war. Something stranger. Something raw. On the bridge, Science Officer Beth Martinez confirmed what they all knew was coming. All railguns charged. Magnetic coils at maximum. Targets locked. The aliens laughed again. Outdated, they said. Kinetic weapons were history. Beams and antimatter had long ago made projectiles obsolete. But the humans knew something different. Admiral Morrison gave the order. Single railgun. Maximum power. Demonstration only. A tungsten rod. 2 meters long. 500 kilograms. Fired at 12% of light speed. It struck a derelict ship adrift in the nebula. And in an instant, it ceased to exist. Vaporized. Plasma brighter than a sun flared outward, forcing nearby ships to shield themselves from the blast. And the galaxy went silent. Alien commanders froze, their laughter cut short. No shields could have withstood such a blow. No armor could have survived. They had witnessed a primitive weapon achieve the destructive force of antimatter. It was not just firepower. It was precision. It was control. And in that moment, 7 civilizations realized that humanity had arrived. For 30 long seconds after the human railgun fired, the galaxy held its breath. Alien commanders stared at their sensors in disbelief. The ship they had mocked as crude had just unleashed power equal to an antimatter warhead, and it hadn't even flinched. But disbelief quickly turned to fear. And fear, in war, always becomes aggression. Fleet Admiral Zithras of the Kithra Dominion was the first to recover. His species lived for the hunt, and he had no patience for hesitation. His black, predatory eyes tracked the human vessel across the chaos of the nebula, and instinct told him this was prey worth killing. All Dominion ships, he commanded coldly, focus fire on the human. 17 destroyers and battlecruisers turned as one. Their weapons powered up, brilliant lances of plasma and particle beams charging to the strength of small suns. The combined barrage was designed to erase moons, flatten fleets, break civilizations. And they aimed it at one human ship. Alien watchers leaned forward across their bridges. Some expected the Defiant to flee. Others expected its primitive hull to vaporize in the first strike. But Admiral Morrison gave no such order. Hold position, he said. The beams came. White-hot streams of plasma and fire lit the void, converging on the human fortress like the fingers of a vengeful god. And the Defiant did not run. Instead, something extraordinary happened. Lieutenant Commander Greg Walsh, monitoring the ship's engineering systems, reported in a calm voice that belied the chaos around them. Reactive armor plating engaged. Point defense systems tracking. Energy dissipation fields holding steady. What had looked like crude steel was something far more advanced. As plasma struck the hull, entire sections of armor detonated outward, controlled explosions that scattered the heat and force across millions of fragments. Instead of absorbing the damage, the Defiant redirected it. Turned the fire into nothing more than wasted energy. And then came the second surprise. Thousands of smaller railguns erupted to life. Point defense cannons filled space with hypervelocity clouds of metal dust, a storm invisible to the eye but devastating in effect. The incoming energy beams were disrupted, broken apart, neutralized before they could reach the ship. The Defiant was not just armored. It was adaptive. Predictive. Surgical. Captain Zixth of the Crystalline Voron could no longer laugh. They are intercepting energy weapons, with matter, she whispered, her body frozen in crystalline silence. This should not be possible. Science Officer Martinez's voice carried quiet triumph. Admiral, their beams follow predictable trajectories. Our systems calculate interception paths in real time. We know exactly where every bolt will be, and we meet it there. What the galaxy had thought was crude engineering was, in truth, terrifying elegance. The Kithra barrage, enough to level worlds, faded. The Defiant remained. Damaged perhaps, but still standing. Still defiant. And for the first time in his long career, Fleet Admiral Zithras of the Dominion felt fear. On the bridge of the human ship, Ryan Cooper turned from his console, wide-eyed. "Sir, incoming transmissions. From all factions. They're requesting ceasefire agreements. Every one of them." Morrison studied the display. Alien fleets, once enemies, had shifted into defensive patterns, not against one another, but against him. The humans. But he was not done. "Lieutenant Foster," Morrison said quietly, "target 3 capital ships. 1 from 3 different factions. Strike only their weapons systems. No casualties." A pause. The bridge went silent. And then. "Yes, sir." The Defiant fired 3 times. 3 tungsten rods screamed into the void at a fraction of light speed. The first shattered the Voron flagship's main crystal array, the very heart of its devastating starlight cannon. The weapon fractured into a cloud of diamonds drifting lifeless through space. The ship survived. Its crew survived. Its pride did not. The second round crushed the Dramor Dreadnought's plasma batteries, weapons that had terrorized fleets for decades. Metal folded like paper, ruined beyond repair. Again, no casualties. The third impact struck the synthetic assembly's quantum laser core. In an instant, its systems cascaded into shutdown, silencing the most advanced energy weapon in the galaxy. The ship lived. Its crew endured. But its firepower was gone. 3 shots. 3 of the galaxy's greatest weapons, neutralized with surgical precision. For a long time, nothing moved. Alien officers who had studied warfare their entire lives stared at the impossible. Projectiles had achieved what their most advanced technology could not: overwhelming power, impossible accuracy, and most unthinkable of all, restraint. Humanity had proven not just strength, but control. The ability to wage war without drowning in slaughter. And that terrified them more than destruction ever could. Admiral Morrison appeared on the holographic communication channel that now connected 8 command bridges. He looked plain. Human. Middle-aged. Weathered. Not crystalline, not scaled, not glowing, not engineered. Just human. "You requested this conference," Morrison said. Fleet Admiral Zithras leaned forward. His voice was stripped of arrogance, laced with something like respect. "Your weapons cannot be matched. Your defenses cannot be broken. Tell us, human, why did your species remain hidden until now?" Morrison's expression hardened. "We were not hiding," he said. "We were preparing." Captain Zixth's crystalline form rang with confusion. "Preparing for what? Conquest? Submission? Do you plan to claim our worlds for your own?" Morrison shook his head. "No. We came here to stop you from making the same mistakes that nearly destroyed us." Commander Sullivan activated the historical archive. And the galaxy gasped. Images filled the shared hologram, the 20th and 21st centuries of Earth. Wars. Cities burning. Millions of humans killing millions more. Weapons crude by galactic standards, yet horrifying in their brutality. Nuclear fire. Entire continents scarred. General Krather of the Dramor whispered, his scaled voice trembling. You did this to your own species. Morrison nodded slowly. 2 world wars. Over 100 million dead. Weapons capable of ending our planet many times over. We learned to kill each other with such precision, such efficiency, that we frightened ourselves. Chief Engineer Stevens added grimly, every system on this ship exists because we built it to survive ourselves. Our targeting systems were forged against enemies who thought like us, because they were us. Silence followed. Alien commanders shifted uneasily, their arrogance unraveling into something deeper, recognition. Commander Veltara of the Luminar flickered with confusion. Then why did you stop? Why abandon such violence if it made you powerful? Morrison's reply was soft. Almost sorrowful. Because we realized that if we could destroy ourselves so easily, then we could choose to protect instead. To build. To turn the art of war into the art of guardianship. Commander Sullivan stepped forward. The Kepler system holds 17 habitable worlds. 40 billion lives at risk. Yet you've turned it into a battlefield instead of a sanctuary. The alien commanders fell into silence, the weight of her words pressing harder than any weapon. And then Morrison offered them a choice. End this war. Work together. We will share what we know, not as conquerors, but as partners. But if you refuse, then you will learn why a species that perfected the art of destruction chose to become guardians instead of predators. The galaxy understood. 3 days later, the Kepler Accords were signed. For the first time in history, 7 civilizations agreed to peace, under human guidance. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy was quiet. The warships that once prowled the Kepler system now hung silent, their weapons deactivated. Alien captains who only weeks ago had sworn to annihilate one another now met at the same table. And at the center of it all sat humanity, not conquerors, not overlords, but reluctant arbiters of a fragile peace. The Kepler Accords were signed under the shadow of Earth's warship Defiant. Every faction knew what had been demonstrated, that humans could fight without mercy, yet chose restraint. And that choice carried more weight than raw power ever could. In the months that followed, joint fleets patrolled trade routes. Research was shared. Old enemies sat together, awkward at first, then slowly with something approaching trust. Alien historians called it a miracle. But to Admiral Morrison, it was only a beginning. Peace, he told his officers, isn't the absence of war. It's the preparation for something greater. Most thought he meant rebuilding economies or teaching cooperation. But Morrison's words carried a heavier truth. One born from intelligence no one else had yet seen. It began with whispers from the Harari, the strange, neutral species who had never taken sides in any galactic conflict. They lived in isolation, deep in the void, rarely communicating with outsiders. When the Accords were signed, the Harari sent a single transmission. No greeting. No preamble. Only a warning. You think the humans are your shield. But they are only your first test. The message ended there. The alien councils dismissed it as riddles. Political games. But Morrison did not. Earth had encountered the Harari once before, decades earlier, in the dark between stars. They spoke rarely, but when they did, their words carried precision. They never lied. So when they called humanity a test, Morrison knew it meant something greater. And then came the signs. First. Unexplained ruins discovered on the barren world of Keros 4. Structures older than the galaxy's mapped civilizations, carved from alloys no species could identify. Second, fragments of data hidden in deep space signals, encrypted in ways beyond the reach of even the synthetic assembly's most advanced quantum minds. Patterns within patterns. Languages within languages. And finally, ships. At first, they appeared only as blurs on long-range sensors, slipping through star systems like shadows. Too fast, too silent, too precise to be natural. By the time patrols arrived, nothing remained. But one fact became clear. Something else was moving in the dark. Commander Sullivan stood over the central display one night, watching the fragmented sensor reports line up into a haunting shape. "It's not random," she whispered. "They're charting routes through the spiral arm. Testing response times. Mapping our weaknesses." Lieutenant Foster looked pale. "You mean someone's already preparing for war?" Sullivan shook her head. "Not war. Invasion." The first confirmed encounter came at the edge of the Perseus Arm. A mining outpost run jointly by humans and Voron detected an unknown vessel entering orbit. Its silhouette did not match any catalog design. Smooth. Featureless. Geometrically perfect. At first, they thought it was unmanned. But then the outpost systems began to fail. Power grids shut down. Communications fractured. Entire databases erased with surgical precision. By the time the patrol fleet arrived, the station was gone. Not destroyed. Not burned. Removed. As if it had never existed. The galaxy demanded answers. Some accused humans of staging the event. Others believed the Harari had finally chosen to act. But deep down, every commander felt the same quiet dread. They were not alone. When the truth came, it arrived in a single word. Architects. That was the name the Harari finally gave. The ones who had shaped empires long before the current galaxy rose. The ones who had vanished without a trace, leaving ruins scattered across uncharted worlds. The ones who now returned, not as builders, but as judges. They built the stage you stand on, the Harari warned. They built the laws you believe are natural. And now they return to see what has grown in their absence. Alien leaders struggled to understand. "Why would creators destroy their own work?" asked Captain Zixt of the Voron. "Because they no longer see us as their work," Morrison answered grimly. "They see us as corruption." The galaxy had spent millennia fighting over resources, over borders, over pride. Now, for the first time, they faced something utterly alien, not conquerors seeking territory, but an intelligence that measured civilizations as one might measure crops. Harvest. Or cull. On the bridge of the Defiant, Ryan Cooper stared at the void, his voice hushed. "All this time, we thought we were fighting each other. But maybe the war was never between us. Maybe it was only the opening act." Admiral Morrison said nothing. He only watched the stars, as if searching for movement in the darkness. Because he already knew the truth. The galaxy's fragile peace had come too late. The real war, the one humanity had been preparing for all along, was only beginning. And this time, even humanity might not be enough.